What if the most powerful voice shaping your life isn't coming from other people, but from inside your own mind? What if the way you talk to yourself is quietly deciding your confidence, your habits, and your future? Welcome to Growth Listen. Today, we explore What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter, a timeless book that reveals how your inner dialogue influences everything you do. This book shows that self-talk isn't just background noise, it's programming. And once you change the words you repeat to yourself, you can change how you think, feel, and act through simple explanations and practical techniques. Helmstetter teaches how to replace negative self-talk with intentional, positive language that supports growth, focus, and self-belief. These ideas aren't complicated, but they are powerful when applied consistently. If you've ever struggled with doubt, hesitation, or self-sabotage, this audiobook will help you understand why, and more importantly, how to change it. Chapter 1. Accept this truth. You are already programming yourself. You need to understand this immediately. You are already programming yourself. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. Every thought you repeat is an instruction. Every sentence you say in your head is a command. Your brain is not passive. It is obedient. It does not ask, "Is this good for you?" It asks, "How often do you say this?" And whatever you repeat, it accepts as truth. This is the part most people never confront. They believe their thoughts are harmless. They believe self-talk is just noise. It is not noise. It is code. Your mind is a machine that runs on language. And most people are running programs they never chose. Think about it. You did not wake up one day and decide to doubt yourself. You didn't consciously install fear, procrastination, or low confidence. Those programs were installed over time, by repetition, by authority figures, by emotional experiences, parents, teachers, friends, media, failure. Someone said something once, then again, and eventually you started saying it to yourself. That's just the way I am. I'm not good with money. I always mess things up. I'm not confident. I'm not disciplined. At some point, those words stopped being opinions. They became instructions. Your subconscious does not know the difference between a fact and a familiar sentence. If it hears something enough times, it treats it as reality. That is a trap. You are not living based on your potential. You are living based on your programming. And here's the dangerous part. Your mind will execute these instructions automatically. You don't have to think about them. You don't have to agree with them consciously. They run in the background, like an app you never closed, like a script that launches every time a situation triggers it. Opportunity shows up. The program runs. I'm not ready. Pressure shows up. The program runs. I can't handle this. A challenge appears. The program runs. This is too hard. And then people say, "That's just how I feel." No, that's just what you've been telling yourself. Your feelings are not random. They are responses to internal instructions. This is why willpower fails. This is why motivation fades. You cannot outwork a bad program. You cannot hustle past self-sabotage. If your internal voice is programmed for limitation, your behavior will obey it. Your mind is loyal. It will do exactly what you tell it to do. If you tell it you're tired, it will find fatigue. If you tell it you're weak, it will create hesitation. If you tell it you're incapable, it will protect you from trying. Protection feels like procrastination. Protection feels like fear. Protection feels like avoidance. Your brain thinks it's helping you. That's the cruel irony. Most people aren't lazy. They're obedient to bad instructions. Now, let's be clear. This is not about blame. You are not at fault for the programs you inherited, but you are responsible for the ones you keep running. Because here's the truth most people avoid. If you do nothing, nothing changes. Your mind will continue running outdated code. It will continue executing instructions written years ago. Instructions based on who you were, not who you want to become. And your life will reflect that. Same habits, same reactions, same limits, until you intervene, until you take conscious control. That starts with awareness. You must start catching the sentences you repeat. Not once, not occasionally, relentlessly. Pay attention to what you say when you fail. Pay attention to what you say when you're tired. Pay attention to what you say when no one is listening. That is the real script. And here's the hard rule you must accept. Anything you say repeatedly becomes an order. I'll try is an order for hesitation. I can't is an order for shutdown. This always happens to me is an order for repetition. Your subconscious hears no sarcasm. It hears no jokes. It hears commands. So when you casually criticize yourself, your brain takes notes. When you speak out loud or in your head, your brain adjusts behavior to match it. This is why affirmations feel fake to beginners, because they are trying to install new code without deleting the old one. You can't whisper confidence over years of self-attack. First, you must stop reinforcing the old program. This chapter is not about positivity. It's about precision. You are not here to hype yourself up. You are here to stop sabotaging yourself. So here is your first behavioral instruction. For the next 24 hours, do not argue with your thoughts. Observe them. Every time you catch a limiting sentence, label it. Say internally, that's programming. Not that's me. Not that's true. That's programming. That separation matters. Because once you realize a thought is learned, you realize it can be replaced. You don't fight a program emotionally. You override it systematically. But overriding comes later. Right now, your only job is this. Stop assuming your thoughts are facts. They are scripts, and scripts can be rewritten. The moment you understand that, you regain power. You stop identifying with every impulse. You stop obeying every feeling. You stop living on autopilot. Most people never do this work. They stay trapped in invisible instructions. They confuse familiarity with truth. You will not, because from this point forward, you know something critical. Your inner voice is not who you are. It is what you've been taught to say. And anything that was taught can be untaught. Chapter 2. Your brain doesn't argue. It obeys. Here's the rule you must understand if you want control over your life. Your brain does not argue. It obeys. It does not debate your thoughts. It does not fact-check your self-talk. It does not stop to ask whether what you're saying is logical, fair, or useful. It listens. It records. And it executes. Your subconscious mind is not a judge. It is a servant. It accepts repetition as truth, not evidence, not intelligence. Repetition. Say something once and it's a suggestion. Say it 100 times and it becomes a belief. Say it 1,000 times and it becomes behavior. This is why negative self-talk is so destructive, not because it's emotional, but because it's frequent. Most people don't insult themselves once. They do it all day, every day, for years. I'm behind. I'm bad at this. I never follow through. I don't have what it takes. Those sentences aren't opinions anymore. They're operating commands. And your brain follows them with brutal efficiency. If you tell yourself you're tired, your body conserves energy. If you tell yourself something is hard, your brain looks for exits. If you tell yourself you're not confident, your posture changes before you notice. This is not weakness. This is design. Your brain's job is to keep you consistent with what you believe about yourself, not to make you successful, not to make you happy. Consistent. That's why people stay stuck for decades. They don't change the instructions. Understand this clearly. Your subconscious mind is literal. It does not understand sarcasm. It does not understand exaggeration. It does not understand jokes at your own expense. When you say, "I'm terrible with money," it doesn't laugh. It adjusts your behavior to prove you right. When you say, "I always mess things up," it doesn't challenge you. It lowers your standards and weakens your follow-through. This is why logic alone doesn't fix behavior. You can know better and still do worse. You can read books and still self-sabotage. You can understand the problem and repeat it anyway, because understanding does not reprogram. Repetition does. That's why people repeat the same mistakes even after promising themselves they won't. The promise was logical. The programming was emotional and repetitive. Logic loses the habit every time. Now here's the flip side. The exact same mechanism that destroys confidence can rebuild it. Your brain doesn't resist positive self-talk either. It resists inconsistency. Say something positive once and nothing happens. Say it occasionally and it feels fake. Say it daily, deliberately, and your brain starts adjusting behavior to match it, not because it believes you immediately, but because it has no choice. Repetition forces compliance. This is where most people quit too early. They say, "This doesn't work." What they really mean is, "I didn't repeat it long enough." You didn't get programmed overnight. You won't reprogram overnight, but you will reprogram if you stay consistent. Think of your self-talk as software. What you say consistently becomes your internal operating system. Your operating system determines how fast you process stress, how you respond to failure, how you handle pressure, how you make decisions when no one is watching. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You perform at the level of your programming. That's why two people with the same skills get different results. One has supportive internal instructions. The other has sabotaging ones. Same environment, different scripts. Now, let's get practical. From this moment forward, you must stop treating self-talk as casual. It is not casual. It is directional. Every sentence you repeat is steering you somewhere. So here's your first non-negotiable rule for this chapter. Stop rehearsing weakness. Stop narrating your struggles out loud or in your head. Stop repeating the story of why something is hard. Stop reminding yourself of past failures. Not because those things didn't happen, but because repeating them programs you to repeat them again. You don't need to deny reality. You need to stop reinforcing it verbally. Here's what to do instead. When a negative thought appears, do not argue with it emotionally. That gives it energy. Label it. Interrupt it. Then replace it with a directive. Not a wish. Not a compliment. A command. Instead of "I'm tired," say, "I'm focused the next 10 minutes. Instead of "I can't do this," say, "I'm figuring this out step by step." Instead of "I always fail," say, "I follow through today." These statements are not affirmations. They are instructions. Your brain responds to clarity. Short, direct, repeatable. And here is the key detail most people miss. You must say it even when you don't feel it, especially when you don't feel it. Feelings follow instructions, not the other way around. If you wait to feel confident before speaking confidently to yourself, you will wait forever. Confidence is a result of disciplined internal language. Now, another rule you must accept: silence is also programming. If you say nothing, the old script keeps running. If you don't interrupt, the default voice takes over. That voice has had years of repetition. It is louder. It is faster. You beat it with consistency, not intensity. This is not about hype. It's about control. So here's your behavioral assignment for this chapter. Choose 3 simple self-directives. Not goals. Instructions. 1 for focus. 1 for discipline. 1 for identity. Examples: I do the next right thing. I act even when it's uncomfortable. I am the kind of person who follows through. Write them down. Say them out loud. Repeat them daily. Morning, midday, night, not forever. Just long enough for your brain to accept them as normal. Remember this. Your brain doesn't care if the sentence is positive or negative. It cares if it's repeated. So if you're going to repeat something anyway, and you are, make sure it's working for you, not against you, because the brain you're trying to control is already listening. Chapter 3. Stop saying what you feel. Start saying what you want. Here is where most people lose control of their lives. They speak from emotion instead of intention. They say what they feel. They narrate discomfort. They give a microphone to temporary states. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Feelings are temporary. Instructions are permanent. This is a law. Ignore it and you stay reactive. Use it and you take control. Most people let their feelings write their internal script. I feel unmotivated. I feel insecure. I feel overwhelmed. Those sentences feel honest. They feel real. They also destroy momentum because your brain does not hear feelings. It hears directions. When you say, I feel overwhelmed, your brain doesn't respond with clarity. It responds by slowing you down. When you say, I feel anxious, your brain scans for threats. When you say, I feel tired, your brain conserves energy. You are not describing reality. You are shaping it. High performers understand this early. They do not wait to feel confident. They do not wait to feel ready. They do not wait to feel motivated. They decide what they want to feel. Then they speak as if that decision is already active. This is not pretending. This is leadership. You cannot lead your life if your emotions are in charge. Emotions are weather. You don't build systems based on weather. You build systems based on direction. Here's a mistake people make. They believe self-talk should reflect their current emotional state. That is backwards. Your self-talk should create your emotional state. Confidence does not come before confident language. Calm does not come before calming instructions. Discipline does not come before disciplined self-talk. It's the other way around. You speak first. The mind adjusts second. The feelings follow last. This is why saying what you feel keeps you stuck. It reinforces the current loop. You say, I'm stressed. Your brain says, understood, maintain stress. You say, I'm not confident. Your brain says, understood, avoid exposure. You say, I don't feel like it. Your brain says, understood, delay action. Your brain is excellent at following orders. You're just giving it the wrong ones. Now listen carefully. This is not about denying emotions. You are allowed to feel tired. You are allowed to feel nervous. You are allowed to feel uncertain. But you are not allowed to let those feelings dictate your language, because language dictates behavior. High-level performers separate how they feel from how they speak to themselves. They might feel fear, but they speak courage. They might feel resistance, but they speak discipline. They might feel doubt, but they speak direction. This is the difference between reacting and leading. So here's a rule you must adopt starting now. Never give your emotions a final word. They can inform you. They cannot instruct you. Instead of saying what you feel, you state what you want, not as a wish, as a command. Instead of I feel tired, you say, I'm focused on the next task. Instead of I'm nervous, you say, I'm calm and prepared. Instead of I don't feel confident, you say, I speak clearly and directly. Notice a shift. You move from description to direction. Your brain needs direction. And here's another truth most people resist. You will feel fake at first. Good. That feeling of this isn't me is a sign you are breaking an old pattern. It means the new instruction hasn't been normalized yet. If it feels natural immediately, it means it matches your old programming. and your old programming is the problem. Stop chasing authenticity based on your past. Your past self created your current limits. You are building a new baseline. Now let's talk about intention. Speaking from intention means you decide who you are being before the situation decides for you. You don't wait for the meeting to start to decide how you'll show up. You don't wait for the challenge to hit to decide how you'll respond. You pre-program. You tell yourself in advance, this is how I act under pressure. This is how I respond to discomfort. This is how I follow through. That is intention. Emotion is reactive. Intention is proactive. Most people live reactively. They let circumstances pull language out of them. Leaders push language into circumstances. Now here's the discipline part. And this is where most people fail. You must speak the instruction, even when emotion contradicts it, especially then. If you only speak intentionally when it feels easy, you are still emotion-led. The real work happens when your feelings disagree. You feel lazy. You speak action. You feel afraid. You speak calm. You feel unsure. You speak clarity. That is how you train your brain. Every time you override emotion with intention, you weaken the old program. Every time you speak direction in the middle of discomfort, you install a new default. This is not about one heroic moment. It's about repetition. Now here is a practical framework you will use starting today. Before any important action, ask one question. What do I want to embody right now? Not what do I feel? What do I want to embody? Focus? Calm? Authority? Persistence? Choose one word. Then convert that word into a sentence. I am focused on the next step. I am calm and steady. I act decisively. Say it out loud if you can. If not, say it internally with authority. This takes less than 10 seconds, but it changes how your brain organizes behavior. This is how high performers stay consistent, not by suppressing feelings, but by refusing to let feelings run the show. One more critical rule. Stop explaining your emotions to yourself. Stop saying, I feel this way, because that reinforces emotional loop. Explanations feel intelligent. They're often self-sabotage. You don't need to analyze every feeling. You need to direct behavior. Action first. Analysis later. So here is your assignment for this chapter. For the next week, ban one phrase from your self-talk. I feel like, replace it every time. Instead of, I feel like I can't, say, I'm doing the next step. Instead of, I feel like quitting, say, I stay in motion. Instead of, I feel overwhelmed, say, I handle one thing at a time. This is not positive thinking. This is command thinking. You are not here to reflect your emotions. You are here to lead them. And the leader always speaks first. Chapter 4. Delete the language of failure. If you want different results, you must speak differently. Not someday. Now. Because the language you use every day is quietly shaping the limits of your life. Words like, I can't, I'll try, maybe, hopefully, and I'll see, sound harmless. They are not. They are the language of failure. And they sabotage you before you even begin. Here's a hard truth. Your vocabulary determines your mental boundaries. What you allow yourself to say determines what you allow yourself to do. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or opportunity. They fail because they talk themselves out of action with soft, weak language. I'll try. That sentence alone has destroyed more goals than fear ever has. I'll try is not commitment. It is pre-negotiated failure. When you say I'll try, your brain hears, this is optional. It hears, quit if it gets uncomfortable. It hears, we're not serious. And your brain obeys. The same goes for I can't. Most of the time, I can't does not mean inability. It means discomfort. It means effort. It means uncertainty. It means fear disguised as logic. But your subconscious doesn't interpret that way. It interprets "I can't" as a hard boundary. And once a boundary is verbalized, behavior aligns with it. Now let's talk about maybe. Maybe feels reasonable. It feels flexible. It feels non-threatening. It is also a decision to avoid decision. Maybe keeps you in limbo. It keeps energy low. It keeps momentum non-existent. Decisive people do not say maybe about things that matter. They choose. Then they adjust. Undecided language creates undecided behavior. Here's the rule you must accept. Your brain takes your words literally. If you say something is optional, your effort becomes optional. If you say something is hard, your brain resists it. If you say something might not work, your brain looks for proof that it won't. This is why vocabulary is not cosmetic. It is structural. Your words are the framework of your identity. People think identity is built by big moments. It's not. It's built by the sentences you repeat when no one is listening. Every time you use passive language, you reinforce a passive identity. "I'll try" reinforces someone who doesn't follow through. "I can't" reinforces someone who avoids challenge. "Maybe later" reinforces someone who delays their own life. You cannot speak like a weak person and expect to act like a strong one. Now let's be clear. This is not about being aggressive or unrealistic. It's about being precise. Strong language creates strong posture in the mind. So the goal of this chapter is simple. Delete passive language. Replace it with decisive commands, not affirmations. Commands, because commands change behavior. Here's how you do it. First, you must become aware of your default phrases. Pay attention to what comes out of your mouth when you're under pressure. Pay attention to how you explain why something isn't done. Pay attention to how you talk about effort. That's where the real script lives. Second, you interrupt immediately. When you hear yourself say, "I'll try," stop, correct it in real time. Say, "I will do this for 10 minutes. Say, "I will start." Say, "I am committing to the next step." Notice the difference. You're not promising perfection. You're committing to action. That's decisive language. Instead of "I can't," say, "I'm learning how." Instead of "This is too hard," say, "This requires focus." Instead of "maybe," say, "I choose to decide by this time." These are not motivational tricks. They are behavioral levers. Your brain responds to clarity and authority. Passive language creates ambiguity. Ambiguity creates hesitation. Hesitation kills execution. Decisive language creates movement. Now let's address resistance. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. It will feel strict. It will feel unnatural. That's because your old language was protecting you from accountability. Passive language gives you an escape hatch. Decisive language removes it. And that's the point. You cannot recondition your identity while keeping verbal exits. You cannot become disciplined while speaking like someone who avoids commitment. Language is how identity trains itself. So here's a critical mindset shift. You are not describing your reality. You are defining it. When you say "I can't," you are not reporting a fact. You are issuing command. When you say "I'll try," you are not being humble. You are lowering standards. High performers do not use soft language with themselves. They speak clearly. They speak firmly. They speak intentionally. Not because they are harsh, but because they are serious. Now let's talk about identity reconditioning. Every decisive sentence you use is a vote for a new version of yourself. I do what I say. I finish what I start. I handle discomfort. These are identity statements. And identity drives behavior automatically. You don't need to force actions when identity is aligned. You act because it's who you are. That's the end goal. But identity is built one sentence at a time. This is why you must replace passive language immediately, not later. Later reinforces delay. Immediate correction reinforces control. Now here is your non-negotiable assignment for this chapter. For the next 7 days, ban the following words from your self-talk and speech. I can't. I'll try. Maybe. Hopefully. Every time one appears, replace it on the spot. Do not let it slide. Do not excuse it. You are training precision. Create a short list of replacement commands and use them relentlessly. Examples: I start now. I do the next step. I decide and act. I follow through. Short, clear, decisive. Say them out loud when possible. Authority increases when language is externalized. And remember this: you don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your language. If you want to expand your life, expand the strength of your words. Delete the language of failure, and you begin deleting failure itself. Chapter 5. Repetition is the real secret. Here is the truth most people don't want to hear. One positive statement does nothing. One burst of motivation does nothing. One inspired moment changes nothing. Repetition is the real secret. Not intensity, not emotion, not hype. Frequency. The mind does not learn through passion. It learns through repetition. This is why people get excited, make a plan, say a few positive things to themselves, and then quit. They expected a feeling to do the work of a system. That never works. Your brain is not impressed by motivation. It is shaped by what you repeat. Think about how you learned everything you do automatically. You didn't learn to walk because someone gave you a powerful speech. You didn't learn language because you felt inspired. You learned because you repeated actions and words over and over again. The same is true for self-talk. One positive sentence does not override years of negative repetition. That's not how the brain works. The mind changes through frequency, not intensity. Say something once, and it's noise. Say it occasionally, and it's ignored. Say it daily, and it becomes familiar. Say it consistently, and it becomes normal. Say it long enough, and it becomes automatic. That's the process. Most people fail because they quit in the familiar phase. They say, this isn't working. What they really mean is, this hasn't become automatic yet. They underestimate how long bad programming took to install, and they overestimate how quickly it should be replaced. You didn't become who you are overnight. You won't rewire overnight, but you will rewire if you stay consistent. Consistency beats motivation every time. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It depends on sleep, mood, circumstances, and emotion. Consistency ignores all of that. Consistency says, I do this whether I feel like it or not. And the brain respects that. Here's what most people misunderstand. Repetition does not feel powerful while it's working. It feels boring. It feels mechanical. It feels uneventful. That's why it works. Your subconscious mind learns best when there is no emotional resistance. Calm repetition slides past resistance. Drama triggers pushback. This is why affirmations shouted in the mirror once don't stick. But quiet, daily self-directives do. You are not trying to convince your brain. You are training it. Training requires reps. Now let's talk about behavior. Repetition of language leads to repetition of action. If you tell yourself every day, I do the next step, your brain starts looking for the next step automatically. If you repeat, I stay focused for 10 minutes, your attention span expands. If you repeat, I follow through, your behavior begins aligning with that identity. Not instantly, gradually. And gradually is how all lasting change happens. This is where people get impatient. They want transformation without boredom, results without routine. That is fantasy. Real change is unglamorous. It is quiet. It is repetitive. But it works. Here's the rule you must accept. If you are inconsistent with your self-talk, your behavior will be inconsistent. If you only speak intentionally when you feel good, your results will depend on mood. If you speak intentionally every day, your results become predictable. High performers don't rely on motivation. They rely on rituals. Rituals remove decision-making. They remove debate. They remove excuses. This is why repetition must be scheduled, not spontaneous. You don't say the right things when you remember. You say them because it's time. Morning, midday, night, simple, non-negotiable. Now let's address another lie. People say, I don't want to lie to myself. This is not about lying. This is about direction. You are not saying, I am perfect. You are saying, this is how I act. You are giving your brain a pattern to follow. If you don't get a pattern, it will default to the old one. Silence does not equal neutrality. Silence equals old programming. So if you skip days, the old voice gets louder. If you break the pattern, the old habits return. This is why consistency matters more than enthusiasm. One calm sentence repeated daily beats an emotional speech once a month. Always. Now let's make this practical. You do not need dozens of statements. You need a few strong ones repeated relentlessly. Too many statements dilute focus. Simplicity increases repetition. Choose 3. 1 for action, 1 for discipline, 1 for identity. Examples: I do the next step. I act even when it's uncomfortable. I am the kind of person who follows through. That's it. Say them every morning. Say them before difficult tasks. Say them at night. Not because you feel like it, because it's training time. Do not change them every week. Do not chase novelty. Repetition requires stability. The brain builds pathways through repetition of the same signal. Changing statements too often resets the process. Stick with them long enough for them to feel boring. Boredom is a sign you're doing it right. Now, let's talk about patience. Reprogramming does not announce itself. One day you simply notice you reacted differently. You started sooner. You hesitated less. That's the signal. The change already happened before you noticed it. That's how conditioning works. People who fail say, I didn't feel different. People who succeed say, I just acted differently. Behavior is the evidence, not emotion. Now here's a warning. If you are inconsistent, you will confuse your brain. One day you speak discipline. The next day you complain. One day you command focus. The next day you narrate exhaustion. Your brain chooses the most repeated message. And that is usually the old one. This is why half-effort self-talk is worse than none. It gives you the illusion of progress while reinforcing the default. If you commit, commit fully. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about not quitting. Miss a day. Resume immediately. Do not negotiate. Do not reset. Do not judge. Resume. That's discipline. So here is your assignment for this chapter. Choose your 3 statements. Write them down. Set reminders if needed. Repeat them every day for 30 days. No evaluation. No emotion. No adjustment. Just repetition. At the end of 30 days, look at your behavior, not your feelings. Are you starting sooner? Are you hesitating less? Are you following through more often? That is proof. Remember this. Motivation gets you started. Consistency keeps you moving. Repetition changes who you are. That is the real secret. And now you know it. Chapter 6. Talk to yourself in the second person. This chapter will feel uncomfortable at first. That's how you know it works. Because here is the truth. How you talk to yourself matters. But how you address yourself matters even more. Saying you will is more powerful than I will, not because it sounds nicer, but because it changes who is in charge. Most people talk to themselves like a confused participant, uncertain, emotional, negotiating. I'll try. I hope I can. I should probably. That is not leadership. That is hesitation speaking to itself. High performers talk to themselves like a coach talks to an athlete. Clear, firm, directive. They use second-person language. You will start now. You stay focused. You finish this. This is not arrogance. This is structure. Your brain responds differently when instructions come from authority. And second-person language creates internal authority. Here's why. When you say, I will, your mind treats it as a suggestion, a future possibility, something open to negotiation. When you say you will, your brain hears command language. It hears direction. It hears leadership. You stop sounding like the person inside the struggle, and you start sounding like the one in control of it. That shift is everything. Think about how discipline was taught to you growing up. Someone didn't say, I hope you clean your room. They said, you clean your room. Someone didn't say, I wish you'd focus. They said, you pay attention. Authority speaks in second person. The brain recognizes it instantly. That pattern never leaves you. Even as an adult, your subconscious still responds more powerfully to command language. This is why coaching language works. This is why military language works. This is why firm instruction cuts through emotional noise. Now here's the mistake people make. They think self-talk should sound gentle, supportive, soft. That may feel comforting, but it doesn't create action. You don't need comfort when you're procrastinating. You need direction. A disciplined mentor doesn't ask how you feel. They tell you what to do next. That's the voice you must develop. You are not talking to a fragile child. You are training a capable adult. So stop speaking to yourself like you're unsure. Speak like you expect compliance. Now let's address resistance. This will feel strange because you are used to identifying with the emotional voice, the one that complains, the one that doubts. Second-person language separates you from that voice. It creates distance. You are feeling resistance. You are still moving. Notice the difference. You are no longer trapped inside the feeling. You are observing it and directing behavior anyway. This is emotional control, not suppression. Control. You don't argue with the emotion. You don't explain it. You override it. That is strength. Here's another reason second-person language works. It activates the part of your brain associated with social accountability. When someone says, you will, your brain prepares to respond. It anticipates consequence. It tightens focus. When you say, I might, nothing activates. So if you want more discipline, speak in a way your brain respects. Now, let's make this practical. You are not going to narrate your life. You are going to coach it. Instead of, I need to focus, say, you focus for the next 10 minutes. Instead of, I should work out, say, you train today. Instead of, I'll try to stay calm, say, you stay calm and steady. Short, direct, non-negotiable. You don't add emotion. You don't justify. You don't soften. You issue the command and move. This does not mean you become harsh or abusive with yourself. Discipline is not insult. You don't say, you're pathetic, that's destructive. You say, you are capable, move. That's leadership. A good coach is firm, not cruel. Now let's talk about consistency. You cannot use second-person language occasionally and expect change. Your brain needs repetition. The same way a coach repeats instructions every practice. You keep your form. You stay alert. You finish strong. Eventually, the athlete internalizes a voice. That's the goal. At first, you will feel like you're pretending. Good. That means you're installing a new internal authority. Over time, that voice becomes automatic. And here's the key outcome. When the coaching voice becomes automatic, discipline becomes effortless. You don't debate. You don't negotiate. You respond. Now let's talk about moments when this matters most. Use second-person language in 3 situations. 1. When you feel resistance. You act anyway. 2. When you are about to delay. You start now. 3. When you are under pressure. You stay steady. Those are the moments where identity is formed, not when things are easy, when they are uncomfortable. Now here's an important rule. Do not over-explain commands. The longer the sentence, the weaker the authority. You should probably try to focus because this is important, is useless. You focus now is effective. Authority is concise. Your brain trusts clarity. Now let's address self-trust. Many people say, I don't trust myself. That's because they speak without authority and act without follow-through. Trust is built when instruction and action align. Second-person language helps close that gap. You say it. You do it. You say it again. You do it again. Trust builds. Identity shifts. Now here is your assignment for this chapter. For the next 7 days, replace I with you in your self-talk during moments of action. Not all day. Only when discipline is required. When you wake up. When you start work. When you feel resistance. Examples: you get up. You begin. You finish this. Say it internally or out loud, but say it with certainty. No sarcasm. No doubt. No emotion. Command. Action. You are not asking permission. You are directing behavior. And remember this. The strongest people are not the most motivated. They are the most self-directed. They don't wait for the right feeling. They give themselves instructions. And they obey. Speak to yourself the way a disciplined mentor would. Clear, firm, consistent. Because once you become your own authority, nothing external controls you anymore. Chapter 7. Install self-talk rituals that never fail. If you rely on willpower, you will fail. Not sometimes. Eventually. Willpower is fragile. It depends on mood, energy, stress, and sleep. Structure does not. This chapter is about structure. Because self-talk only works when it is automatic. And automatic means ritualized. You do not rise to your intentions. You fall to your systems. So if your self-talk depends on remembering, you will forget. If it depends on motivation, you will skip it. If it depends on emotion, it will disappear under pressure. Ritual removes all of that. Ritual says, this happens no matter what. Here is the core principle. The brain has prime programming windows. Use them correctly, and change accelerates. Ignore them, and progress crawls. There are 3 windows you must master. Morning, transitions, before sleep. These are not suggestions. They are leverage points. Let's start with the morning. The first minutes after waking are when your mind is most suggestible. Your analytical filters are low. Your subconscious is open. This is why mornings set the tone for the entire day. Most people waste this window. They check their phone. They absorb chaos. They react. They start the day programmed by other people's priorities. That is weakness. You must take control immediately. This does not require an hour. It requires 2 minutes. Before your phone, before conversation, before distraction, you install the day's instructions. Not goals. Commands. Simple, short, repeatable. Examples: you focus on what matters. You act decisively. You follow through today. Say them out loud if possible. Voice increases authority. This is not hype. This is orientation. You are telling your brain how the day works. Now, let's talk about transition moments. Transition moments are when you move from one state to another, from home to work, from work to training, from sitting to starting. These moments are powerful because the brain is already shifting. Most people drift through transitions unconsciously. They scroll, they complain, they mentally wander. That's lost opportunity. You must attach self-talk to transitions. This is how habits become unbreakable. You do not rely on memory. You attach instructions to movement, walking to your car, sitting down at your desk, starting a workout. Each transition gets a script. Walking equals, you stay focused. Sitting equals, you begin now. Starting equals, you finish this set. No emotion, no debate. This works because the brain loves association. Movement triggers memory. Routine triggers instruction. Soon, the behavior starts automatically. This is how you eliminate procrastination. You don't fight it. You bypass it. Now, let's talk about before sleep. This window is critical, and almost everyone wastes it. Before sleep, the mind consolidates patterns. It reviews the day. It strengthens repeated signals. If you fall asleep replaying frustration, your brain rehearses failure. If you fall asleep scrolling nonsense, your brain reinforces distraction. You must close the day intentionally. Again, this takes 2 minutes. Before sleep, repeat identity statements. Not what you did wrong. Not what you wish was different. What you are reinforcing. Examples: you did the work today. You are disciplined. You improve daily. This is not delusion. It is direction. You are telling your subconscious what to store. Sleep does the rest. Now here's the rule that makes rituals never fail. You do not add them to your day. You attach them to existing habits. This is critical. If you try to create a new habit with no anchor, it collapses. If you attach it to something you already do, it sticks. You already wake up. You already walk. You already go to bed. Use those anchors. Walking becomes a self-talk trigger. Driving becomes a self-talk trigger. Training becomes a self-talk trigger. Example: every time you walk, you repeat one instruction. Every time you drive, you repeat one instruction. Every time you train, you repeat one instruction. You don't choose different ones each time. You use the same ones. Repetition builds automation. Now let's address resistance. People say, "This feels robotic." Good. Robotic means consistent. Consistent means effective. You are not trying to feel inspired. You are trying to recondition behavior. Robots don't rely on motivation. They execute instructions. So should you. Another objection: I forget to do it. That means you didn't attach it tightly enough. Rituals fail when they float. They succeed when they're glued to behavior. Don't say, "I'll remember to do self-talk." Say, "When I walk, I speak." No walking without instruction. No sitting without command. Now let's talk about willpower. Willpower is what you use when you lack structure. The disciplined don't use willpower often. They use systems. When self-talk is ritualized, you don't decide to do it. It just happens. That's the goal. Now here's something most people get wrong. They think rituals should change frequently. They don't. Change kills momentum. You keep the same instructions long enough for them to become boring. Boredom is a sign of normalization. Once normalized, the behavior sticks. Now here's the exact structure you will use. Morning ritual, 3 commands. Same order, same words. Every day. Transition ritual, 1 command per transition. Walking, driving, sitting. Evening ritual, 3 identity reinforcements. Before sleep, No phone after. That's it. No complexity. No creativity. Discipline thrives on simplicity. Now let's address intensity. You do not need to shout. You do not need emotion. Authority comes from certainty, not volume. Calm, firm, direct. You begin now. You stay focused. You finish. Say it like you expect obedience. Because you should. Now let's talk about failure days. You will have them. Days when you skip. Days when you feel off. Days when you're inconsistent. Here's the rule. Never miss twice. Miss once. Resume immediately. No guilt. No analysis. Rituals work because they are resumed, not because they are perfect. Now here is your assignment for this chapter. Design your 3 rituals today. Write them down. Morning, 3 commands. Transitions, 1 command per movement. Evening, 3 identity statements. Then attach them to real actions, not sometime. Specific. When I wake up, when I walk, when I lie down. Do not adjust for 30 days. Do not evaluate. Do not optimize. Just execute. At the end of 30 days, you will notice something. You think less. You hesitate less. You act faster. That is structure at work. Remember this. Willpower fades. Motivation fluctuates. Structure endures. Install rituals that never fail. And discipline becomes automatic. That is how control is built. Chapter 8. Use self-talk to control fear and pressure. Most people misunderstand fear. They think it starts in the body. It doesn't. Fear starts as language. Before your heart races, before your hands shake, before you hesitate, there is a sentence, a quiet one, a fast one, often unnoticed. What if this goes wrong? I'm not ready. This is too much. Fear is a verbal experience before it becomes emotional. And that means something important. If fear is built with words, it can be controlled with words. But only if you act early. Most people don't. They wait until fear feels overwhelming. Then they try to calm down. That's too late. By then, the body is already responding. Adrenaline is high. Focus is scattered. Control must happen at the language level. This is where self-talk becomes a weapon. Calm, directive self-talk stabilizes performance under stress. Not reassurance. Not positivity. Direction. Leaders are not fearless. They are verbally disciplined. They do not eliminate fear. They manage it. And they manage it by controlling what is said internally when pressure appears. Here's a hard truth. Fear grows when it is described. It shrinks when it is directed. Most people narrate fear. I'm so nervous. I can't handle this. This is overwhelming. That narration feeds a fear. Your brain hears those words and escalates the response. It prepares for danger. It diverts resources away from logic and toward survival. That's why people freeze. That's why they blank out. That's why they underperform. Not because they lack ability, because they lost control of the internal language. High performers do the opposite. They never describe fear to themselves. They issue instructions. You breathe. You slow down. You focus on the next step. Those sentences don't deny fear. They contain it. They give the brain a task. And when the brain has a task, panic decreases. This is critical. The brain cannot panic and execute clear commands at the same time. It chooses one. If you give it nothing, it panics. If you give it direction, it stabilizes. That's leadership. Now let's talk about pressure. Pressure is simply fear with time attached. Deadlines, expectations, exposure. Pressure increases when attention moves too far ahead. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if this goes wrong? That's future-focused language, and it creates instability. The solution is not confidence. The solution is narrowing focus. Directive self-talk brings attention back to the present. You stay here. You handle this moment. You do the next action. Pressure collapses when focus contracts. Leaders understand this instinctively. They don't think about the entire outcome. They think about execution. One step, one breath, one decision. That's how performance stays stable under stress. Now let's address a mistake. People try to calm fear by arguing with it. There's nothing to be afraid of. You'll be fine. It's not a big deal. That doesn't work. Fear does not respond to logic under pressure. It responds to authority. You don't debate fear. You command behavior. Think of fear like a loud subordinate. If you argue, it gets louder. If you give it a task, it falls in line. You breathe slowly. You keep your voice steady. You look forward. Short commands. Physical focus. This works because fear lives in uncertainty. Commands create certainty. Now let's talk about moments when this matters most. Public speaking, confrontation, decision-making, high-stakes work. In these moments, fear tries to hijack your attention. You must be ready with pre-scripted language, not improvised, prepared. You don't wait until fear shows up to decide what to say. You decide in advance. This is critical. Here are examples of fear control scripts. Before speaking, you breathe, you speak slowly. Before confrontation, you stay calm. You state facts. Before pressure work, you focus on process. These scripts are not emotional. They are procedural. Procedure beats panic. Now, let's talk about identity. People say, I'm just an anxious person. That is not an identity. That is a habit of language. If you repeatedly say you're anxious, your brain keeps producing anxiety. Leaders use different identity language. They don't say, I'm nervous. They say, I'm alert. They don't say, I'm afraid. They say, I'm prepared. That shift matters. Words frame experience. You don't eliminate arousal. You reframe it. Alertness feels empowering. Fear feels paralyzing. Same energy, different language. Now let's make this practical. You need a fear control protocol. Simple, repeatable, automatic. Here's the structure. Step 1, interrupt narration. The moment you hear fear language, stop it. No explanations, no stories. Step 2, ground the body. Short command. You breathe. You slow down. Step 3, narrow focus. One task. You do the next step. That's it. 3 steps. Always the same. Do not add complexity. Under pressure, simplicity wins. Now here is the discipline part. You must practice this when stakes are low. Do not wait for a crisis. Use it in small moments. Minor discomfort. Small challenges. That's training. Then when pressure is high, the script runs automatically. This is how leaders perform consistently. Not because they are fearless, because they are prepared. Now here's a warning. If you allow fear narration to continue unchecked, it compounds. One fearful sentence invites another, then another. Soon, fear feels overwhelming. Not because the situation changed, because the language escalated. Cut it early. Now here is your assignment for this chapter. Write down 3 fear control commands. 1 for physical regulation, 1 for focus, 1 for identity. Examples. You breathe slowly. You focus on this moment. You are steady. Memorize them. Use them every time discomfort appears. Not just big fear, all fear. That's how discipline is built. And remember this. Fear is not a signal to stop. It is a signal to speak clearly. Leaders don't eliminate fear. They out-instruct it. They stay calm under pressure because their language is calm. They perform because their words are controlled. Control your words, and fear loses its power. Chapter 9. Build an identity script, not just motivation. Motivation fades. Identity stays. This is the line that separates people who change temporarily from people who change permanently. Motivation is emotional. Identity is structural. Motivation says, I feel like doing this. Identity says, this is who I am. And when identity speaks, behavior follows automatically. This is where most people fail. They focus on what they're trying to do instead of who they are becoming. I'm trying to work out. I'm trying to be disciplined. I'm trying to be confident. Trying is unstable. Trying depends on mood. Trying depends on circumstances. Trying collapses under pressure. Identity does not. Identity does not ask how you feel. Identity tells you how you act. A disciplined person does not debate discipline. A confident person does not wait to feel confident. A leader does not ask permission to lead. They act because that is who they are. Your actions always align with the strongest internal story. Not your goals, not your intentions, your story. So if your story says, I'm inconsistent, your behavior will match. If your story says, I quit when it gets hard, your actions will confirm it. Your brain is obsessed with consistency. It will do whatever it takes to keep your actions aligned with your identity. That's why change feels hard when identity is unchanged. You are fighting yourself. And that fight never ends well. The solution is not more motivation. The solution is an identity script. An identity script is a set of sentences you repeat that define who you are becoming. Not someday. Now. This is critical. You don't say, I will become disciplined. You say, I am disciplined, not because it's fully true yet, but because you are installing direction. Your brain does not need perfection. It needs clarity. Now let's address resistance. People say, that feels fake. Of course it does. Your current identity was built through years of repetition. Your new identity will feel unfamiliar. Unfamiliar does not mean wrong. It means new. If you only say things that feel authentic to your past, you will stay trapped in it. Authenticity based on yesterday is limitation. You are not here to be authentic to your old self. You are here to be intentional about your future self. That requires speaking ahead of your current behavior. This is how all growth works. Athletes call themselves athletes before they win. Leaders see themselves as leaders before others do. High performers adopt identity before results show up. Behavior catches up. Now here's the mistake people make. They use identity statements like motivation. They say them when they feel good. They stop when they don't. That defeats the purpose. Identity scripts only work when repeated regardless of emotion, especially when emotion disagrees. If you only say, I am disciplined, when you feel disciplined, you're just describing. You are not conditioning. The real work happens when the identity script contradicts the feeling. You feel lazy. You say, I am disciplined. You feel doubtful. You say, I am decisive. You feel hesitant. You say, I act. That is how identity is trained, not through agreement, through repetition. Now let's get specific. An identity script has 3 characteristics. 1, it is present tense. 2, it is behavioral. 3, it is repeatable, not abstract, not emotional, action-based. Bad example, I am successful. Too vague, too subjective. Good example, I do what I say I will do. That is observable. That is trainable. Another bad example, I am confident. Better example, I speak clearly and directly. Identity must connect to behavior. because behavior is the proof. Now, let's talk about motivation versus identity in real life. Motivation says, I should go to the gym. Identity says, I train today. Motivation says, I hope I stay focused. Identity says, I focus on the next task. Motivation negotiates. Identity executes. This is why motivation fails under stress. Stress doesn't care what you hope for. It responds to who you believe you are. So if your identity is weak, pressure exposes it. If your identity is strong, pressure activates it. Now, let's talk about how to build your identity script. You don't build it from fantasy. You build it from values and behavior. Ask yourself 3 questions. Who do I want to be when things are uncomfortable? How do I want to act under pressure? What do I want to be known for? The answers become your script, not a paragraph. Short sentences, examples. I follow through. I handle discomfort. I stay calm and focus. I do the work. These are not affirmations. They are identity anchors. You repeat them daily until they feel boring. Boredom means integration. Now here's an important rule. Do not stack identities. Pick one primary identity at a time. Trying to be everything at once dilutes focus. Choose the identity that would make the biggest difference right now. Discipline, consistency, calm, decisiveness. 1. Train it for 30 days. Then layer another. Now let's talk about proof. Your brain needs evidence to solidify identity. But here's the trick. The evidence comes after the script, not before. You say, I follow through. Then you follow through on small things. Small wins count. You don't need massive proof. You need consistent proof. Finish a task. Keep a promise. Complete a workout. Then reinforce the identity at night. I followed through today. That closes a loop. Language plus action equals identity. Now here's a warning. Do not contradict your identity script verbally, even jokingly. Saying, I'm so lazy undoes conditioning. Say that's just how I am locks identity. Be ruthless with your language. Identity is fragile during formation. Protect it. Now let's address failure. You will miss days. You will break streaks. That does not change identity. Quitting does. One miss is an event. Quitting is identity. If you miss, correct the behavior immediately and restate the script. I follow through. Then follow through. No drama. No analysis. Identity is built by response to failure, not avoidance of it. Now here is your assignment for this chapter. Write one identity script. 1 sentence. Behavioral. Present tense. Examples. I do what I say I will do. I act even when it's uncomfortable. I stay focused on the next step. Choose one. Repeat it every morning. Repeat it before action. Repeat it at night. Then prove it once per day with behavior. Small proof is enough. Do this for 30 days. Do not change the script. Do not add others. Train one identity at a time. And remember this. Motivation is a feeling. Identity is a decision. Feelings fade. Decisions shape lives. Tell yourself who you are becoming. Say it until your actions agree. Because in the end, you do not become what you want. You become what you repeatedly tell yourself you are. The real power of this book lies in awareness. Once you notice your self-talk, you can begin to guide it with intention. Replace criticism with encouragement. Replace doubt with clarity. Over time, those small inner shifts create real, lasting change. As you move forward, listen closely to your inner voice. Choose words that support your growth, not limit it. Speak to yourself with patience, belief, and purpose, because the way you talk to yourself matters. Thank you for listening. If this audiobook added value to your day, feel free to comment, share, and subscribe to Growth Listen. Your support helps bring meaningful content to more listeners. Keep growing, keep listening, and keep speaking to yourself with strength and confidence.